If I had to tell you who I work for, I couldn't. If I had to tell you why, I couldn't even begin. In my youth, I had always found myself being interested in archaeology and the unknown. As a child, I pictured myself as Indiana Jones, running about searching for artifacts and fighting off treasure hunters of all sorts, Nazi or self-employed. When the time came for me to begin college, I knew I had to follow my father's footsteps and try for Boston University. Not only to please my father and get him to pay for the fees, but for another reason entirely. They did offer an archaeology major. As most would probably imagine, finding work in the field that bears fruit is no easy feat. I was living in a studio apartment alone, surfing through back pages of Google, looking for any jobs related to archaeology that had nothing to do with teaching where it all began. Looking for archaeologists to fill positions on study team. High pay rate. It took me quicker to send the author of the post than it took me to realize I never even read the contents of the post, even after all these years. In the following week, when I was doing my morning email check and trying to figure out how to scrounge enough cash to pay for my rent, I had an email from a person I wouldn't even begin to try to recognize. On top of the fact that their email name looked like nothing more than an extra long license plate, the message only gave me a single phone number. In combination of curiosity and desperation to work, I called. A light, enthusiastic, yet hastened voice picked up.
Hello.
Sounds like someone was going somewhere in a hurry. Hi, this is Daniel. I am inquiring about an email sent to me giving me this phone number.
Daniel, good to hear from you. I'm Dr. Roberto Sanchez. Let me explain what you'll be investing your time in.
That was almost 9 years ago. I worked for the government, you could say. Why? Well, for the money, of course. On my first day, me, along with a few others in a small team, were to fill out various papers and confidentiality, non-disclosure forms. It was grueling, and in the moment, I missed nightly homework and research papers back in my schooling days. The department director, Dr. Sanchez, is a small man, no taller than 5'5". He always shaved his facial hair, save for the mustache that he wore. His demeanor, however, despite his always serious and blank expression, was in contrast as he proved to be an incredibly kind and candid man. Yet, the field we were in was no place for the kind and candid. Dr. Sanchez had several relics in question that we individually were assigned to study and figure out the various mysteries behind the objects. I was not given clearance to see what my colleagues' relics were, and like me, they couldn't see or talk about what mine was. I remember the first day I laid my eyes upon it. You may pick it up if you like. The capsule it was found in, along with a letter, are on the table behind it. The board of directors calls this one the Maker's Mask, due to the letter, which I encourage you to read. What is it exactly? As I held a beautiful crafted medallion no bigger than my palm up to the light, he went on to explain. We know that in the 1500s, this was found by the secretive Royal Expedition League, a short-term group founded by the young king at the time. None knew of the organization's existence except for the people who they sold the capsule to, the Vatican. The large coin appeared to be some sort of amber gold color, with a finely chiseled M protruding ever so slightly from each side of the coin. The letter appeared to be made from a lighter shade of sapphire. Certainly an interesting story, but what about the science? What is this thing, in a literal sense? Dr. Sanchez let out a sigh and rested his hand on the corner of the table. Well, this is the rather difficult part. We ran the artifact, along with the capsule and letter it contained, through carbon dating. I raised my brows. And? It originally read 4.543 billion years, he said. The idea this artifact was as old as the Earth itself is absolutely ridiculous. Impossible, I said with certainty. His face seemed to grow even more serious. I would have thought the same, but we ran it through again and again until we were certain. The dating read the same. Something about this isn't right. Read the letter for yourself. For now, I must go to a meeting on the second level. Without saying further, he swiftly turned and walked out the open door and closed it slowly behind me to leave me in my peace with whatever the hell this thing was. I turned on my computer, knowing I was tasked with figuring out what this thing was. It was when I picked up the letter, which was more similar to a scroll than a letter. A certain feeling of dread grew as I read every word. When men are on the path to extinction, and they have created their own demise, I will make the world again. That was only last month. Today is the day, or tomorrow, maybe even next week. I don't know when, but soon. You must be wondering what I'm referring to. The answer to that you can see for yourself. I was in my office earlier, which in time became more of a personal lab as I discovered what little I could about the artifact in question. However, today something happened that never happened before. And when it did, I swear, I could almost feel the sweat cascading down from my hairline. It started to glow. Not glow. Blink. The new light shade of blue shining from the M was blinking slowly. But there was a pattern. It didn't take long to put it together. When it hit me, I rushed to a pencil. Morse code. As the pattern changed here and there, I hastened my writing. I already knew what it said before I finished. And for once, my heart truly dropped as I read the message back to myself. Make peace with your end. I have awoken. Hello again. Time runs on me, so I must be quick before it's too late. So much has happened in the hours since my previous post. Let me begin to break it down. The department I worked for does not take things very lightly. I had told Dr. Sanchez of what happened about 5 minutes after I collected myself. Let us not dwell on the past though. At the moment, we need to look to the future, for even myself being at the forefront of this disaster and without a clue as to what is next. The subterranean building speaker buzzed slightly before a familiar voice bellowed out in a nervous command.
All level 5 personnel to the central hub. This is not a drill.
And with that, I marched down the corridor pondering what our next assignment would be, given all the chaos. To my surprise, I was the first couple of people there. I walked up to a fellow colleague by the name of Holloway. He is a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious blank expression worn at most times that would have even put the most miserable looking people to shame. He looked over to me. Thought you would have ran with the rest. He let out an expressionless chuckle without even having to move his mouth much. From behind the monitors, Dr. Sanchez walked out into view of the two of us. Before he managed to get within speaking distance, I looked straight back at Holloway. What do you mean by ran, Holloway? I wasn't in the mood for his vague remarks at this point. You didn't hear it, did you? Sitting in your office, fiddling about with your medallion. I found my words caught in my throat. There was no way he was supposed to know about the contents of my assignment. What, you think that disclosure agreement is still in play here? He motioned over to the approaching director. He told us all about it. Have you even watched the news from earlier? He cut himself off when the ground had a faint tremble. The kind that only silence and our carefully listening selves could verify to be true. As if on cue, Dr. Sanchez cut in. You two, look at this mess. He flicked on every monitor in the room that was mounted against the main wall in front of us. The news headlines read, numerous earthquakes and fissures appear within the same hour across the globe. Population descending into chaos as world leaders have yet to release statements. My heart raced. What the fuck would have caused this catastrophe? every bit of reason told me this could not be. But from the start, I knew this was something beyond us all. There were many loose ends in terms of the medallion's origin. So we sat there, just the three of us, for hours picking apart each and every detail. What we know is that the material that appeared to be some sort of organic type of material that was not bone or wood. However, it related closest to stone. The idea that it is living stone is almost unbelievable, but at this point, given that it communicated with us, we're just taking in the information as it comes. As for the M, or the core as Holloway has come to refer to as, we still can't figure out what it is made out of. When it comes to what transpired when it started to blink, we are all at wit's end for two main reasons. How could a billion-years-old object both communicate and know Morse code? Even with the most advanced technology at our disposal, there was one elephant in the room no one cared to mention. Whatever this was, someone or something made this for us to find. The trembling ground grew more noticeable as the time passed like fluid. That's when the medallion started to glow once again. This time it was different, to say the least. The three of us didn't even say a word. We just stared for a good minute before Dr. Sanchez spoke up. "It's telling us where to go," he proclaimed as he started to pace back and forth while it was in his hand. "What are you talking about?" said the now standing Holloway, all the while looking on in awe. Dr. Sanchez pushed his glasses up a bit before finishing. "Look at the medallion when it moved across the room." He was right. We both watched the medallion carefully. When it was at the north of the room towards the monitors, the glow of the light was faint, but still visible enough. However, when it ended up on the south part of the room, the light was clearly far brighter. "Well, what are we supposed to do? Follow it blankly until we find the source of whatever is causing all this? Sounds hardly likely the Earth will still be in one piece by the time." Holloway was cut off by one quick and loud rumbling of the ground. We are located below ground, and I think we all knew this was the worst place to be given the circumstances. But regardless, we needed to figure out something before time had run out. Security personnel had already started to evacuate when Dr. Sanchez beckoned me and Holloway over to the monitors once more. "This is where we must go." Dr. Sanchez pointed over in the direction of the monitor furthest left. And there, it showed us a picture of Stonehenge in England. However, something was noticeably different. In the center of the stone circle, there was a truck-sized gaping hole leading straight into the dark unknown and frightening below. "I will arrange for the test chopper to get us there in ample time." Sanchez seemed confident one of the test helicopters recently developed could get us there in time. Which, given the projected speed, I don't doubt. However, I was unsure as to the stability of it. I turned myself back to the exit to prepare myself, but I could have sworn the hole that was made, the shape, looked too strange to be natural. It was almost as if I could make out knuckle marks on the edges of one side of it. It was shaped perfectly like a fist. "See? What did I tell you? Perfect timing," cheered Dr. Sanchez as we all ran out into the field. Stonehenge was straight ahead. The rain and thunder had started to pick up, and it was increasingly dark out, so we quickened our pace as we heard the chopper behind us shut down. "We will have to go down." Sanchez was cut off by a now visibly unpleased Holloway, who went on to say, "We know," while I remained silent. A feeling was growing inside of me that told every cell in my body to about face and get the fuck out of there. Because at this point, if the world was going to end, I just wanted to get home to my dog and relax. However, I didn't. We traversed down the collapsed earth on cables we had placed with brutal efficiency. We went on down for miles before we hit the bottom. It was breathtaking. I found it very strange that the floors were clearly tiled, although most of the wall was just destroyed earth.
This way!
Shouted Holloway as he ran into the only visible hallway. It was lit by a large arched entrance, and you wouldn't be able to tell how far it went if we had no lights with us. But from what we saw, it didn't go far. But it did go down. We ran into the entrance to discover that there was a rough-hewn set of stairs leading down to a massive sort of wall. This doesn't make sense anymore, I said, as I realized that my hands were on top of my head. For just a moment, I began to question my sanity. The ground trembled like never before in a long stroke of about 10 seconds, enough to shake the ceiling and cause parts of it to collapse around us. Then, it stopped completely. My mind lit up immediately when I took the coin out of Sanchez's case and saw the glowing was brighter than anything I'd ever seen. Staring into it for far too long could probably cause someone to go blind, but we knew what this had meant. We scoured the wall in front of us for a while, until I just barely saw it. Straight down the middle was a line as thin as a string of hair.
That's it! It is a gate!
I shouted to Sanchez and Holloway, who were on the other end of the gate. They ran over to me to confirm it. And right when they did was when we saw it. "And what do you suppose that is for?" said Holloway in a dry, sarcastic tone. Neither one of us answered, because we all knew exactly what it was for. In the moment, I was terrified of what lay ahead of us. A gently chiseled circle was at body level with us between the two lines, just about the size of the Maker's Mark. When men are on the path to extinction, and they have created their own demise, I will make the world again. The words from the letter played back to me. The three of us stood in front of the presumed lock. I don't think anyone wanted to make the first move and do what we had to. However, I thought to myself that if my whole life was spent looking after myself, working on this mysterious artifact for no reason besides self-profit, the one thing I could do was suck it up and do this one great thing. I was ready to give myself to whatever lay ahead for mankind's sake. I know what we're all thinking. I'll do it, I mumbled out, still somewhat unsure of myself. I stepped forward regardless. I placed the medallion into its place, or rather, it did on its own with my assistance. It seemed to have some sort of magnetic property, because it quite literally flew into its spot once I held it close enough. Then it turned up exactly 90 degrees to the right, making an E, which to me at this point signified something was going on that wasn't quite right. Well, it's an E now, said Holloway. His breathing grew heavier. All of ours did. The end, Sanchez quickly mumbled out. He was practically panting. They were more tired than I was. Especially when the ancient gate's doors started to open up, screeching against stone and sending prehistoric dust into the air all around us. Who's first? Sanchez motioned away for us, a slight smile on his face. At least, he was trying to lighten the mood. The conditions down there were getting worse by the second, and the trembling continued and continued. I took the first step.
At last, my children.
What the fuck? Did anyone hear that? Where did that come from? Holloway was shaking. I wanted to say I didn't hear it, but I did. Let's try to be calm here, gentlemen. Sanchez held his composure despite what just happened. We heard a voice. I know we all did.
Yes, remain calm.
We stared down the open gate. A large sanctum was laid ahead of us. Something appeared in the shadows ahead. It was as still as stone, and as large as a whale.
Come closer. Let me get a good look at the three of you.
I noticed there were already lit braziers leading towards the giant shadowy figure. Someone tended this place regularly. No way the braziers could have been lit up for this long. But how would anyone have gotten in? We pressed on. We walked forward to the figure, and the shadows dissipated. Our visual on him, or it, was clear. The thing I saw, I will never forget until my dying day.
You've received my message. Well done. Are you prepared?
A large statue, crude in its look, sat atop a mammoth-sized throne to match the statue's gigantic frame. It had no facial features, besides chiseled marks on his face depicting lips and eyebrows, with more chisel marks around the crown of his head. It appeared to be a man. Where is that damn voice coming from? I muttered to myself. I was listening to its every word carefully, but I couldn't place it while staring at the stone monument, frozen by time. That's when I realized. Its chest moved. It was breathing. Who are you? Sanchez said behind me, his hands trembling as he dropped his light.
I am the creator of all, the three of you, and everything else. This world is mine, and all others. I was your start, and now that you've created your own means of extinction, I am your end.
You cannot do this. I don't give a shit who you are. My family isn't going anywhere, asshole. Holloway was growing angry. A stupid thing to do to a god, I would think. I was right. The creator raised only a finger, and the stone floor around Holloway lifted up into a hand of stone, gripping him in place. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Holloway shouted and screamed about. But it was useless. Even more useless to try and help him, which is why me and Sanchez remained silent and watched this grisly execution. Holloway's eyes started to glow. I never knew a man could scream so terribly. His voice cracked, and he coughed as his eyes grew brighter and brighter, until he popped. He lay still in the clutches of the hand. The creator before us lowered his finger, and in sync with his action, the hand returned to the earth from where it came. Sanchez motioned to talk when the voices returned to our head.
You must have many questions, but you have such little time. I will give you one answer. So choose wisely, as I have little time as well. We all have our own agendas, don't we?
I looked to Sanchez. This one was all his. He stood there, mouth open, as if he were going to say something. But in an instant, he put his head down. I could practically sense the frustration. Why? He muttered, with a dismal voice which I haven't heard him speak in before.
For the other creator, my brother. 500 years ago, a young king found our mark and came to this very place. At the time, my brother was the warden of this place. He loved Earth because he loved humans. The realism of it all and the emotion which defines their every action. He saw it as an escape from the great responsibility he thought we had. When your fellow man led him out of his sanctum, into a trap, I felt his death from light years away and came. It was too late for my brother, but I swore to myself as they closed the gate to this place, that one day, when mankind has let themselves into their own trap, sealing their own demise, I would take vengeance and remake the world where humans no longer run on their own intent. They would run on mine.
The mistakes of our ancestors is not on us. Can't you understand that much?
You've all made mistakes. Humans were one of our great flaws in the methods of creation. I could have sent beings from another world to end you. But for my brother's sake, I made this personal.
I saw the creator's movements. He was becoming uneasy. It was almost time for our lives to end. That was my cue. Sorry, old friend. The gunshot echoed through the deep. I dropped the gun on the floor. In the moment, I felt bad. But ultimately, I knew it was for the greater good. He was a thief anyways. Sanchez was sprawled out on the floor, as still and dead as a wrecked doll. The creator's head shifted towards me.
And what was that about? What are you poking at, Moro?
I raised my hands and motioned to talk, but paused. It was a ruse. With all the hate I could muster, I twirled around and threw my satchel I brought with me. What my colleagues thought to be heat signature reading devices was actually a sufficient amount of C4 capable to collapse a theater. I practically slid out of the sanctum and onto my cable cord when I heard his deep, frankly terrifying voice once again. I hadn't noticed, but I was shaking. I pressed the trigger device.
Explosives. You're really that stupid.
The earth around me shook greatly one last time. Before I rose above the ground and walked out of the smoke and dust that was once Stonehenge. Our escort had left us. I guess all the noise and trembling of the ground beneath them had them running on their heels. No matter though, I had elsewhere to go. My name is Daniel. I'm a direct descendant of one of the founders of the original Royal Expedition League. I was told when I was young by my father that our organization was no short-term group and that we have to continue on for the sake of humanity. There are evil and mysterious things out there. Most of us don't even know of the horrors that await us on the other side of our perceived reality. Reality is far different than that which our governments have shown us. These horrors the governments of the world try to preserve for the sake of their own sinister schemes are things that should not be toyed with, except for those who seek to carry out appropriate measures to ensure the survival of our kind amidst all this shadowy chaos. The government, like my father's organization, seeks them out at every cost. We knew we had to destroy this based on the message received 500 years ago. However, at this time, it was said the medallion spoke our language. Why Morse code this time? I don't know. What I do know is, there are many artifacts left to recover or destroy. I will have to travel back to our HQ on an unmarked isle. But that won't even be the hardest part. Then again, I can't guarantee his death. We are safe for now though. I would hope. Till next time. Daniel K., Chief Fieldsman, Royal Expedition League. The Creator holds knowledge beyond any of us. But he still fell for the same trick.